Hello, folks. Greetings. Welcome back to the class. Today, we are going to look at something interesting. Is how can we build a report or a dashboard using Microsoft Power BI? Okay. Again, the reason why I make these videos is that when somebody asks me some questions or things like that, I just go and make the video, right? So you may think that what has this to do with Excel VBA programming or business modeling, right? But there is no relationship. There is still a relationship because everything has to do with either Excel or business. Okay. So anyway, so I spent some time building this dashboard, and I actually started very with some ambitious goal. But then I realized that if I want to present this in a video, it has to be something simple. Right now, no way this is very simple, but it is somewhat simple where I can explain things within one video, right? And then the other thing I did is that I actually built everything because it takes literally hours to build these things because you got to look at very small details um, in Microsoft Power BI, right? So, what is Power BI? Let's start with that. BI stands for Business Intelligence. Basically, um, business, when you run a business, you capture all kinds of data, right? Now, that data is historical data, right? So you can take that data and do two things with it. Okay, one is study your history, right? What happened. But then the other very useful thing is that if you know what happened, then using um, probability theory, statistics, mathematics, you can project what will happen. Okay, so business intelligence is that. Okay, so I look at my current data. It could be the current data that I have, it is historical data that I have, or some projected data that I have, right? So I take that data, form some useful information in the form of visualization, reports, dashboards, right? So using obviously graphs, all kinds of pictures, so that a business executive, can take effective decisions. Okay. So, for example, this is a sales dashboard. Okay, and I kind of made it kind of simple, right? So here's a company that is selling some products in one, two, three, four, five, 6 states. Okay, across United States. So an executive can actually look at this and say that, hey, here's my market share. Here's a pie chart with market share. Here's my sales by quarter, uh, and I can see some trends here, right? I can see that. So here's my revenue and profit. One, the profit margin is really thin. Okay, I can see that. And the other thing is that in the third quarter, I had very good sales, and then it kind of declined. Okay, I can find out why. So these visual pictures really paint a picture on what is going on, and I can see that different states have different kind of quarterly sales results. Some states performed strong in the second quarter. Most states performed really bad. I can see that Texas performed really well. Things like that. I can actually see all these things visually and have fun with it. Okay. The other thing is that I can do some analysis. So, for example, if I click on one state, I get data for just that one state. So I can just zoom into some details of, so here I'm just looking at North Carolina. Okay. So what happened to North Carolina? I can figure that out. Then again, I click on it, it goes back to the original projection, right? Now I can look at quarter three. So now all my data is filtered to quarter three. So what happened in quarter three? Okay, how was my revenue? What was my revenue? Little less than $1.5 million, and my profit is, I don't know, maybe quarter million, right? So I can do it by quarter, okay, and then go back. And this can be done in any graph. So I can look at, I can click on one graph, okay, and I can see what is going on with one state. Then I can click on that, right? And so therefore I can click on any of this pictures, and I can go further on what is happening in that particular area. And then the other thing is that I can do some additional more complicated filtering of my data, right? So that is there. And then the other thing is that you see that here's one page. I can add more pages of these visualization topics that I have, so that an executive gets a better view. Okay. Now Microsoft Power BI is free in the sense that this desktop tool is completely free. I just downloaded it and I built it. Okay. Now there is an option to publish your data. Now that one will cost you some money. I think it's $20 a month or something. Now, if you want your company to have data published remotely and everybody can take a look at it, then you can take a look at it. But in order for that to happen, your company needs to have an Office 365 account, and your company should allow this kind of visualization to work in the organization, right? So it's more for organizations. But as a standalone desktop application, it is free, okay? And of course, this data itself can come from various sources, right? What I did is, and I'm going to show everything to you, okay? What I did is I got the data set from Excel, and I'll also show you, in order to train yourself. I mean, this tool is kind of intuitive, but sometimes it's not so intuitive. I'll put it that way, right? So if you want to practice doing this and get some familiarity with how to do it, then I would give you some tips and ideas on how to do that. Okay, so I can tell you that too. But the bottom line is, this is business intelligence, and this tool is very powerful. I'll put it that way. Okay, see, it can. So in my case, I just pull some data from Excel, which is very easy, right? But you can do, related tables. So in other words, that you can have data from one source and data from another source, and actually link them by some key values, right? So let's say that I'm talking about sales here by quarter, then there may be another quarterly report, and the quarter numbers can be linked together, and it can form some relationship. And then the other thing this tool can do is that, so your data doesn't have to be just in Excel. It can be in Access, it can be in SQL Server, it can also be from the cloud, it can use some REST services. So all kinds of connectivity is possible. So that's what makes this tool really powerful. And then I'll show you another option. Now in Excel it's a little limited, but you can actually do real-time update of this dashboard. It's a bit limited with Excel, and I'll show you how to do some real-time updates, right? But you can also do some refresh of data. So the data can be in Excel. You modify Excel, you save Excel, and the data can change here. Okay, I'll show you how to do that. So on the whole, just learning this, having an understanding of this will be really useful. Now it's very, very useful in business, but if you're in the software business, that's still a business, right? So you can show, I mean, here I'm showing sales, but you can show, like, I don't know, your Scrum team's velocity, how many bugs you're fixing versus how much time you're spending on real projects, how much time you're spending on meetings. So those kind of things can be put in this kind of dashboard, and so that way anybody learning this is useful, right? So what skills do you need to use this? Really speaking, if you have gone through high school and have picked up how to build graphs, you're all set, okay? Because you're not actually drawing the graph, you're not making all this calculation, you're just dragging and dropping. And I'll show you how you will do that, okay? The other things I'll tell you that, building this graph, these graphs is very easy, okay? Where I spend a lot of time is formatting it, making the background look cool, putting some borders, making the heading look nice. That's where I spend a lot of time, okay? So building the graph itself is easy. And what I will do is, as we go through this class, I will actually add one more page and show you some basic graphs. May not look visually this attractive, but I'll show you how to make it attractive, right? So again, if you are in high school, if you have done these things, you will do this in here, and that is the great advantage of course, I've used Tableau too. Both are great tools. The only thing I like Tableau is that Tableau provides me a free way. There's something called as Tableau Public, where I can actually publish my results publicly, right? And it used to be really public in the sense that I can ask my friends to look at my data, right? And I think recently they restricted it so that if you want other people to see your data, then you got to pay for something or something like that, okay? Compare this tool with Tableau. Which one is better? I don't know. I mean, initially I thought that, hey, Tableau is easy, right? But once I learned these, I'm really thinking that both are kind of the same, because in Tableau you can take data, you can create graphs, and then you can also do, like, I can expand one particular graph and see things, then I can go back, then I can build dashboard, then I can build a story, and the story is nothing here. Is like I can, if I go from page to page to page, it's a story, right? So it's kind of almost the same, except I have a feeling that if you're into Microsoft a lot, probably this is your tool. But if you want to be a little bit more generic, you can do Tableau. Both has a learning curve. In Tableau, there's all kinds of magic you can do. I bet if I learn these things, I can do the same thing. And then the other thing that I noticed here is, and I've not tried it, is there are options to use your OR script. There's a statistical language called OR. You can use OR scripts to affect your visualization. You can use Python scripts. So those are there are some advanced things that you can use, right? So and that's why I didn't explore those things, but you can get KPIs and stuff like that. So there's a lot more options available, customization options available for you, right? It's just you need to learn those things and make this better. Even there's a Q&A thing. There's a lot to explore, okay? But once I give you the intro, I have a feeling that you will just explore and you will become a expert with doing this, okay? So with all that said, let's start with how I prepared the data set, okay? That may be the first thing I need to do. So for that, I'll go to Excel and let me go to the sales data set that I created, okay? Now what I did is that, I actually went to the World Bank website and really downloaded a huge data set, okay? Here's the data set, I think. And I spent hours. This is after hours and hours of scrubbing. I brought this data down to this level, right? Okay, and I really wanted to study only India, and I wanted to do some research on Indian trade, okay, because I've heard that Indian trade is expanding like anything, especially India is getting into things like military arms exports and stuff. So I just want to do some analysis. So I went to the World Bank website. I downloaded the data set. Now it had thousands and thousands and thousands of elements. Now then I scrubbed them, and then they had data from 1962 to 2022. But since some data is missing, I just removed them, right? So what you got to understand is that before you start your visualization exercise, you may have to slice and dice and scrub the data, right? So I actually, this data was in different format. I need to do some transposition. You can also use pivot tables. You can do a lot of stuff in Excel. Okay, at some point I'll teach you how to do pivot table and transpose in Excel. Okay, but this is what I did. And then once I did this, I said that, man, this is so complicated, and if I want to do this in a class, I don't want to get into these kind of complicated data because it will take a lot of time to explain things. And so what I did is I just abandoned that idea and then went back to this simpler sales data. Okay, and the sales data is made up. I'll tell that now itself, but I'll give you some techniques on how to make data that look realistic. Okay. So first thing I did is I said that, okay, if I'm a small business and I'm selling some sort of product, I chose some state, Texas, Ohio, California, Tennessee, North Carolina, New York. Okay, and I'm just putting my quarterly sales figure. And what I did is that I just said that, okay, there is a sales unit, the number of units you sell. And you see that the way I did it is that I'm just using the random in between or random between function. And what this does is every column, the sales figure is actually randomly generated. Now, it is uniformly distributed. What does that mean? It means that the chance of a number coming to this the sales unit number that comes is uniform. That there is equal chance for a number between 1500 units to 100,000 units. Okay, so it's random, but the chance of that happening is uniform. Now the other thing you got to understand is, and I don't know if I already said that before, the random numbers that's generated in a computer is always pseudo-random numbers. Okay, there is a formula, there is some math behind it, but it appears random. Okay, so what I did is that I made the sales units random, and then I also made the unit cost to be random. Okay, of course I made it look realistic by adding a 0.99. Then the markup, which is the profit that you make on the unit cost, that again is random. Okay, I made it like 10 to 15%. And then I come up with the sales price, which is basically take the unit cost and then add that markup. Okay. Then what I did is that I kind of calculated the revenue, which is nothing but the sale price multiplied by sales units. Okay, simple. Then after calculating the revenue, I calculated the profit, which is basically I took the unit cost multiplied by the sales unit. I'm taking the revenue, subtracting that revenue with the unit cost, then I get the profit. Okay. So this is typical for any organization. Now, of course, some of these organizations may be international. They may be, countrywide. And so you may get more rows of data, but it doesn't matter. This is sales. Okay. And then there may be other additional data which can happen, right? You can have sales, how your manufacturing is going on, how your inventory is going on, and you can have more and more tabs of data like that. Okay. But the point of this whole exercise is that I'm using random between function to generate some data that looks random in nature. Okay. The nice thing about this is that my data can change. What do I mean by that? You go to formulas, you say, hey, calculate sheet. What it does is it just recalculates, that is, regenerates those random numbers, and so your data is going to change. Okay. And this is useful. I'll tell you why. Because I can recalculate, change the data, and then go back. Well, I can save it. So I saved this data. Now, after saving this data, I can go back to my BI dashboard and see on the home ribbon there is a refresh button. Okay. If I click on refresh, well, in this case it says, hey, the data cannot be updated because somebody else is using the data. That makes sense, right? Because I have my Excel open. So I'm going back to my Excel. I'm closing Excel. Okay. Now I hit refresh. You see the data changed. That's nice, right? So if you are actually practicing building these kind of dashboards and you want the data to change and see how things look like, you can use this trick as long as your data is using something random. Now, there are other distributions Excel can create. Okay, it can create Poisson distribution. It can create, for those who know statistics, right? It can create binomial distribution. Okay, there is tons of different distributions. It can distribute random numbers. It can create. Okay, you can also add some skewing, and you can play in Excel a lot to generate some random data. Okay, that follows certain pattern. Okay, so if you do that, then and build your data that way for practicing, that's cool, right? Now you might say that, well, I don't want to make up data. I can go online and build some data on my own, or pull some realistic data. Sure, do it. But I'm telling you, for hours together, you'll be scrubbing and slicing and dicing the data. If you want to do that, sure, feel free to do it. Okay. Anyway, now let's come back to this dashboard and see what is done. Okay. Now, there is an option called Get Data, and see that you can get data from a lot of places. Okay. You can get it from Excel workbook, some semantic models, data flows, Dataverse, SQL Server, analysis services, CSV and text, web, okay, some OData feed, blank query, Power BI template. So there's all kinds of places from which you can get data from. Okay, so that is one thing. So all you need to do is, if you say that, hey, I want to get some data, you can say Excel workbook, and for example, we still have the mortgage schedule data here, but if I go to the download and I go to this complicated thing that I created, I can just open it and I get that data. Okay, so, and I go to the sheets and say that, okay, that's the sheet I want, and say load. Now, before loading, I skipped a step called transform. Now you can still go and, so this is the sales data that we have, right? Now I know that there is sales data, and then there is this this data that I imported right now. Okay, so you can pull data this way. Just want to show you how to import data. Okay. Now, in terms of data visualization, let's go to, so you see that there are tabs here, right? One of the tab here is data itself. Okay, so it tells you that, hey, here's your data. Okay, So all your field headings that's shown here, you can see unit cost, date, sales units, price, revenue, etc. Okay. And then you have this visualization thing. This is where the meat is there. It is basically that you can use any of these visualization controls, pull it in and do stuff. Okay. Now let me give an example. Let me just add a page. Okay. So here is the page. And let's say that I want to build a stacked column chart. Okay. Now you double click on it. It comes up here. I can just expand it. The way I expanded it is, see if you go back to the report, you see that there is an icon here, it says focus mode. Click on that, it gets expanded. Now, you wanted to build a stacked bar chart. You've not added any data. And so here's where your high school graph knowledge comes into play. Okay. So in a graph, you have an x-axis, you have a y-axis, you have legend and other stuff. Okay. For a stacked graph, all you need is an x-axis, a y-axis, and some legend. Okay. So let's say that I am looking at, let's say, states as my x-axis. Okay, and in the y-axis, I am actually going to look at my, let's say, profit. Okay, I got a graph. Okay, now this is not a stacked graph. This is just a plain bar graph. All it says is how much profit did you make, and it automatically sums it for you. See, sum of profit. Now you can do other things like what was my average, what was my minimum, what was my maximum. So all kinds of, so variance, standard deviation, all kinds of stuff is here. Okay, so here I'm just going to make it really simple, a sum. So in order to make a stack is kind of 3D. So what you want to do is that you got to say that this is my profit, but how does it look per quarter? So in that case, what you do is that you look at the quarter number and pull that into the legend. There you go. So now you got a nice stacked graph that tells you that, okay, in California, for example, that in the first quarter there was $82,000 profit. Second quarter it was 187,000. Third quarter it became really low, and in the fourth quarter it kind of caught up. So like that you can so this is a stacked graph. Okay. So once you have done this, you can go back to the report and it automatically creates this thing. Now let's say that I want to do, let's see, let me see if I want to do a pie chart. Okay, so I pull the pie chart, double click. Okay, I got the pie chart. Now I can move this wherever I want. Okay, so and another thing is I can pull this graph. Okay, make this graph really big, and then I make this graph really big. Okay, it doesn't have any information. Pie chart is a very simple thing. It just says that, hey, what's your division of stuff, right? So for the pie chart, you could have the legend as state. Okay, and then you could come up with anything you want. You can say, okay, I'm going to look at the revenue. Okay, or I can do profit. Let me do profit in this case. Well, revenue makes sense because that is the market share, right? So revenue, just put, and look at this. I'm just dragging and dropping on values. Okay, there you go. You get a nice pie chart. Okay, and then the other thing that I want to tell you is that, so you can click on it, and there are so many things you can do. Okay, to start with, you can, so you click on view, and you have themes where the graph looks in certain ways. So let's say you want your graph to look little cool. Okay, this doesn't look cool, but I'm saying you can do it. Okay, maybe this one. Okay, so you have the themes. Now I like this dark theme because it makes my little bit more readable for my eyes, right? Now the other thing is that, so if you see the visualization, there is something called as format your visual. Okay, you click on that, you can customize every piece of your graph: x-axis, y-axis, legends, columns, ribbons, everything can be done. Now let's say that you go to general, you have the title is aligned not right, so you want to align it, you go and click on it, see it gets aligned. So you can deal with formatting of this graph however you want. Now you can do some further um, analysis stuff, right? Let's say that you want to add a regression line, right? You can do that. Okay, so and you can find out what kind of regression line you want and stuff like that. So if you want to do some additional analysis stuff for a graph, you can do that using this additional add further analysis tool. Now the format tool is the one which helps you format it, and this one tells you what you want to do. Okay, that's pretty much it if you want to build a graph. Now of course you can align them together, you can pull them, size them, do whatever you want with it. Now this is a page view, right? And the page view, you can say that, hey, I want to fit to the page, fit to the width, etc. Now there's a cool thing here too, that you can have a mobile layout. And in the mobile layout, it shows a mobile phone, and you kind of pull that your graph into your mobile phone and put it in a particular format. Okay, now where is this useful is that when you upload your report, then if somebody wants to see the stuff in the mobile page, then you see it in this one. Okay, so you can now switch between the desktop layout and the mobile layout. So that can also be done, and that's really cool. That it gives you an idea of what that mobile phone looks like, right? Um, what else I want to show you? Now there are some items like optimize, and how you refresh your visuals and stuff like that. There is some optimization it does, so you can do that. So let me go back to the desktop version. Okay, and that's to be really honest, that's pretty much it with this tool. Okay, so you can create visualization, and of course you need to understand each of these graphs can provide you some sort of information. So that's why you got to learn how to use these graphs, right? Okay, well, the one interesting thing I liked it is that you can have a map. Nowadays you have all kind of geocoding and stuff that's going on. So you get a map, and then if you have some elements, like in my case I add state, right? So I can put the state as the location, right? And you can say this field, the state field, what really it is, right? What kind of field it is. So let me do, so the states, and I can say, let me see what's the revenue, right? And revenue in the bubble size, maybe. Okay, so then it shows the bubbles, right? And what you can do is that, and I kind of formatted that, and I said that, hey, these bubbles will have to have colors, and I want to show what is the default color, and I can do a show all, and I can use different colors for different items. Let's see, you know, and kind of display what the colors are. And you can do this not just for states, but you can do it for countries too. The way you manage that is, let me go back to the table view. And if you take the state, for example, so that is the state, and I know that, so the state, right, you can tell what type of data is this, okay. You can tell that, hey, this is a state, this is a postal code, this is a country, stuff like that. And automatically, once you say that, hey, it's a state or province, see, it kind of Power BI automatically identified that as, oh, okay, these are states from the country of United States. So it just bought the United States map and it showed you stuff here, okay. And that is sometimes interesting. Um, but look at this and look at this. This one looks really cool because I spent a lot of time doing formatting and, adding some spaces and working on these x-axis, y-axis values and stuff like that, right? So if you do that, then you get this level of details. But even when I was explaining things to you and pulling data from here, I did it in minutes, right? Now, some of you may have the question on, how is this different from Excel charts? Honestly speaking, there's not a lot of difference. But in Excel charts, you cannot do these kind of things. You cannot do only visualization, right? And put that page after page. Now, you can probably create worksheets and put something very similar than this, similar like this, right? Now, the other thing is, in Excel, some of the advantages you have, like you can do some pivot table and stuff, and then build graphs, pivot graphs out of that. But the tools are available here also to do any of those things, and it's also providing you some of the scripting languages that you can use to do something from the data, right? For example, I could use the R script or Python script to show you that, okay, if this is the sales this year, what will be the sales next year? And there are some projection methods I can use and do that, right? So I can write some script to take the data that is there and manipulate the data, make the data a little bit more interesting, and then display that in the dashboard, okay. I'm trying to think about all the things that people may have questions. Now, the best way to learn this tool, and it seems like there are people who do this kind of Power BI and Power Apps and those kind of things in the Microsoft world, right? How do you learn this? Really speaking, there are many YouTube videos, like how I'm telling you that videos. I did look at some of the videos, right? But the best way to learn this is you on your own pull some data set, build these visuals, and figure out things. Okay, figure out what other type of graphs or type of things are there. And the thing that I realized, or the thing like that I understood, is that this tool is very intuitive, right? I can just go and look at, okay, that's a stacked bar chart. What do I do with it, right? There's a stacked column chart. How do I build that? Okay, area chart. So each of these things is very easy to learn. It's just you need to play around with it. Okay, so for example, I am in page 1. I want to learn something like, I saw there is a tree map. There's an Azure map. Let's see. Donut chart tree map. Okay. Kind of need to understand, hey, what does this mean? So the best thing to do is you need to look at the parameters. So there is a category. Okay, category, I'm just going to pull, let's say that I'm going to pull the state for the category. Okay, and then there is details. Okay, and then there is values. Now let me start with values. Okay, I'm just thinking that if I put revenue on values, what does it do? Well, it sounds like it tells me the relative size of my sales revenue. Okay, now in the details field, let me see if I want to say with that revenue what is my sales unit. Okay, so and this is nice because I think what it has done is for each quarter it's telling me, okay, that is the size, but for each quarter this is how much number of units you are selling. Okay, so that is what is that called as a graph called tree map. See, we learned how to do a tree map and how to do this. And then so you can play around with these things so easily. And then the filtering still applies. Okay, I clicked on Texas, it went to Texas here. Okay, I click on Texas back, it shows me the whole map. So that's really what I'm trying to say is that you can play around with these visual items. Okay, and it can give you some very very interesting things that can happen. Okay, so that's how you learn it. Then going through some video or some documentation, you got to go through reading a lot of stuff. But if you figure it out, and then the other thing that I did is, okay, I want to do something, I want to center this. Okay, how do I do it? Just type that in Google and it tells you that, okay, you got to go here, you got to go to the general, you got to go to the title and go down and align it to the center. You see that? Somebody tells you that and you go and do it and you learned it. Okay, so try it out, figure it out, tell me if you have any questions, definitely let me know. Now the chances are I will just look it up somewhere and give you the answers. So because this tool is so easy to do it, so let me know. And I did not try to publish because it's really weird, and I need to find the reason for this. It's like when I do publish, it says that, hey, you got to give your work email address or your school email address. Now I tried both, but unfortunately my work as well as I also take some college courses, so I do have a school email address. When I tried to add that, it said that, hey, your organization doesn't allow you to use Power BI. What can I do, right? So I could not publish. So and the Power BI, they provide you some sort of try out how to do this publish thing for free for 2 months. But I can't use it if unless otherwise my organization or my school allows me to use Power BI. And probably some organizations use it. My organization does not, and mine is a Fortune 100 financial company. I don't know why they are not using it. Maybe because of security reasons. So I don't know. So and I may have to find out. So that's the one disadvantage I saw in this one. Because Tableau doesn't tell you all these things, right? It just provides you an account. And the other thing is, okay, even if I want to try pay $20 and try to use this for a month and see how it works, I still can't do it. So, and I don't know. I need to figure that out. If you know that, probably you can put that in the comment. But other than that, I felt like this is a very nice tool for visualization. Now there are a lot of things that it's doing. For example, um, there is some relationship modeling that you can do, relationship between data. Then then if you're presenting this to an executive or something, that you can lock the objects so that it doesn't get disturbed. Then I saw, let me see, so you can do some narrative, you can write a narrative or what's going on. You can create paginated reports, that means page number 1, 2, 3, etc. It also has connections to Power Apps and Power Automate. And I'm guessing that your Power Apps that you built, you probably can use this visualization in the Power Apps. And I don't know those can. So there's some advanced things that's available here that I have not tried. Now you can try that and let me know. Okay. But anyway, it's just a fun class I just want to have just to show you what's possible and how to build dashboards and use that in your work or wherever, right? That is it for this class. I think you had fun. If you have any questions, again, obviously you can put that in the comments and I can answer that. But for now, thank you very much, and I will come back to the next class with something a little bit more solid. Okay, thank you.